Hello and welcome to a brief idiot's guide to looking a little bit better on screen. I am your idiot guide, Rob Harrison, the vicar of St Catherine's Church in Neasden. My qualification for this, if I need it, is that I used to a very long time ago work in the BBC as a producer in news and current affairs. Actually, I worked in radio, but we'll gloss over that. I was born in 1962. I'm 58 years old, and I was born into a household that had a television in the corner. What that means is for the whole of my life, I have been watching people talking to me from a screen. And for the whole of my life, the way that people are presented on that screens has been pretty much consistent. So those conventions are written very deeply into my subconscious. And although most people won't understand what those conventions are, and if you quiz them about it, they wouldn't know the answers, on a subconscious level, we do. And when we see something which doesn't quite look right, that doesn't quite look what we're expecting, what we're used to, it makes us feel uneasy. It distracts us. And for us doing ministry on screens in this COVID era, it makes us look amateurish. And that doesn't help. So what I hope I can do in the next few minutes is to give you some real practical guidance on how to organize your screen in the way that the professionals do. And it'll help people to take notice of what you're saying rather than be distracted by your background. Question number one that you have to face is, do you want to go landscape or portrait? This is going to be governed by the technology. If you're recording on a computer, then its default setting will be a landscape. However, if you're recording on a phone, the default setting is going to be portrait. But this isn't about us. This is about the people we're talking to and ministering to. So what are they watching on? If they're looking at it on their phones, if you're going WhatsApp, then you probably want to be this way around. However, if you're going to YouTube and they're going to be watching on their computers, you want to be this way around. There's no right or wrong on that. Television, of course, is landscape format and a widescreen landscape format. But actually, if all your audience is on the phone, then you want to consider portrait. When you made that decision, camera angle is the really most important thing. This is the most common mistake. It's the nostril shot. It's very simple, it's very practical. I can just rest my phone in a near vertical angle on the table in front of me, but I'm looking down on you. And that doesn't sit well for anyone. We don't want people looking down on us. We don't really want a view of their nostrils. And look what it does to the background. Look at those pictures in the background. The ones vertical lines, in fact, vertical lines are now doing a trapezium. And that's very distracting. It's very surreal. And we're not helping the audience to focus on the thing we want them to focus on. There are some people who have a webcam up high, which looks down on them. Well, that's not hugely helpful either. The fact is that whenever you've watched television, whether it's Jack and Ori or whether it's the news at 10, and this is a very good reason for doing it otherwise, then the person who's talking to you is talking on a level. They're looking at you horizontally. They're not looking up or looking down. So do that. Tips later, practical tips on how you achieve that. Another thing to avoid is distractions. Don't put something in the back. Don't look at that. Look at me. It doesn't help if we put something in the background which is going to be more interesting than we are. So choose your background carefully. Yes, if you're going to be making use of it, then by all means put something interesting which people can look at, because let's face it, the face of the clergy isn't that exciting, which will help them. Jesus was doing that in his parables all the time. But if what you're drawing their attention to isn't anything to do with what you want to be talking about, then it's going to be a distraction. It's going to be unhelpful. Don't do it. Now, one way to get rid of the distractions is to opt for the mugshot, which is this. I call it the mugshot because it always reminds me of a sort of police photo, the ones where somebody's holding a number in front of them. It's dealt with the distractions, but there's something horribly sterile about it, and I'm afraid it does remind me of police mugshots. It's better really if you can come away from the wall, if you can have some background which is, that's why I go for this, background which is interesting but not distracting. One really common mistake is backlighting. Easily done, but you don't want to have strong light behind you because, well, you can see on the screen what that does. You've got to have the light in front of you, and there are ways to achieve that. Now, sometimes there may be enough light in the room. If you just put ceiling lights on, then you're going to have shadows in the wrong place. The system I use is very simple. It's a standard lamp with a light shade. That throws a little bit of light up to the top, it throws a little bit of light down onto the table, which reflects up. And it gives me a pretty good balance. You could achieve that just with the more translucent light shade. A bit of diffuse light in front of you will be a great help. Let's just look at the setup for the moment. In order to get that level eye line, what you've got to do is you've got to get the camera up to eye level. I'm achieving that very simply with a pile of books. Every clergy study has way too many books in it. You wonder what they ever do. Well, at last, these books come into their own. You make a heap of books and you put your computer on top of the books. Here's my computer. Or this is a great piece of kit if you can get hold of it. They're not very expensive. They're about 15, 20 quid online, and you can get that on top. You put your phone on it and you can get it clipped in at an absolutely vertical angle, which is really secure, even if you live underneath a helicopter flight path. Putting that back onto the thing. So those are the things that you can have really easy control over. You can have easy control over what is in the background. You can have easy control over the lighting. Something which is harder to have easy control over is this one. We are hardwired as human beings to seek eye contact. And you have just lost my eye contact. And you will have noticed that. Now, I haven't lost eye contact because I'm looking straight at myself. I'm looking at myself in the eye. We would all love to look at ourselves when we're presented with the screen. But if you look at yourself, then you're not looking at the camera, and therefore you're not looking at the person who's listening to you. So you have to train yourself to look into the camera. It's not easy. There's something inside your head that says, look at that really beautiful face on the screen, but try to ignore it. It comes with practice, but you do have to, I mean, you can even just put a little arrow on your screen to show you where it is, to remind you where it is. But it does make a big difference. We are used to people looking us in the eye and talking to us straight. And here we, as amateurs, are at a huge disadvantage because the newsreader has a very expensive piece of kit, the autocue, which, using a scientific internal reflection thing called a Pepper's Ghost, puts the words that they're reading smack in front of the camera. We don't have that tech. For your audience's perspective, they are used to seeing somebody apparently looking straight at them. So if I look down to look at my notes, I lose the audience. Short of getting yourself an auto cue, actually the best thing to do on this is not use notes. Keep it short, keep it simple, and a really basic rule of thumb is, if I can't remember what I'm going to say, how on earth can I expect anybody else to remember what I've said? The other thing is, this isn't live. You have no idea how many takes I've done to get this right. And gradually, take by take, I've got a little bit further as I've got familiar with my material. But there's time for that, so give yourself time. If you mess it up, start again. I hope that's helpful. I think the most important thing is get the device vertical, whether it's a computer screen or a phone screen. Fix it so it is absolutely vertical and it's up to eye level. One last thing, and that is this. Again and again, and I think it's to do with the tech that we're using, people place themselves smack bang in the middle of the screen. Now, in a sense, there's nothing wrong with that. However, the pros don't do it. The pros do this. So, vertical device looking straight at you, carefully thought lighting, considered background, at the top of your head, just underneath the screen. All you need to worry about now is what you're going to say.